So you're telling me that in the Seven Holds, the Pernton's banner is a raven, but the Robin's is a sheep? Why the hell isn't the Robin's the one with the bird? And Larksvale's banner has a raven instead of a lark? Stupid, complained Gade. Gerald was trying to teach him culture. Yes, Gade, now let me finish. Abercott is northwest of Mifflin, right where the Lynn River begins. They have a thriving fish market, and they prefer using axes when they fight. Their sigil is the leaping salmon. Balcaster was where men settled and set camp, in the middle of the Seven Holds. It is known for their vast fields of poppies, which is why they camped there, though it is a true city-state now and no mere camp. They take the buds before they flower, which they call seeds, and dry them. They are later used for pain relief and sleep. Their favorite weapon is the mace, and their sigil is 3 lines, for some reason. This is boring, complained Gade. Gade had complained ever since they entered the desert. Gardenfell was in sight, far on the horizon, and it was only a small strip of sand before they reached the lush greens of Gardenfell. The city was built along the edge of the Lynn River a few centuries past, and it had grown into a wealthy and flourishing kingdom. The heat in the north made it easier to grow food, and the days were longer there, so the sun could hit the plants longer. Their growing season was year-round, since it was always summer in the north, and the plants always had water coming from the river. The wizard at Linwood named William had taught him all that, and he would have to explain it all to his oaf of a bodyguard too, but he wasn't finished with his first lesson. Gade, stop complaining. Now, farthest east is Linding, where St. Lynn came from. It was called Norwich, but after Lynn ascended to sainthood, it was renamed in his honor. They use a sword and shield, though I am unsure if there is any reason. After Linding, the land curves back up into the north, and there are all kinds of people up there. But that's for another day. Thank God. Now Badgerfell is a highland region, and they have all sorts of beautiful stone in the mountains of theirs, as well as iron. Sock was from Badgerfell, remember him? With that hammer? We were talking about him the other day, you have to remember. Anyway, most of the marble comes from Badgerfell. Their sigil is the badger, because badgers live there. Naturally. Gade was making fun of him. Now south of Larksvale is Wolfsweald, a deep forest where wild men live, who wear furs on their backs and have wolves as pets. Let me guess, their sigil is a pig? Very funny, Gade. I tried to help you so you don't look like an idiot in front of the king of Gardenfell, and you're making fun of me. I hope you fall on your ass as soon as we enter the city and everybody laughs at you. Well, that would be pretty funny. I do like the parts about the weapons, though, if I'm to be honest. Pfft, if I'm to be honest. Don't try to act smart now, Gade. But I shall speak more of the weapons. Now in Wolfsweald they carry spears. Why's that? They don't got swords? Well, spears grant you reach when you're hunting. Wolfsweald is nearly parallel with the land of ice and fire, so they only grow things like cabbage and other wretched greens. I don't give a damn what they eat. Is that so? I was answering your question. They have spears because they hunt for deer and share them with their wolves, because they hate the vegetables they grow. And that's why they have spears, Gade. Being kidnapped hadn't had as much of an effect on Gerald as one would think. He may have been more cautious when the group passed by, but he had not been paranoid or frightened. After Ben Blacksheep left them, he noticed that one of the bandits was still breathing. Gerald used his sword to fix that. Gade had thought it was funny at first, but then he shouted, "Whoa, okay, mate! He's dead, for fuck's sake! Stop stabbing him!" The bandit looked like mincemeat by the time Gerald was done. There was no threat of him breathing any more. Soon after climbing over the endless mountains, both Gade and Gerald found that their garb was much too hot. Gade took off his leathers but kept his iron bracers, and was wearing only a brown tunic and some breeches. Gerald did likewise, removing his grandfather's leathers and wearing just his maroon vest. The wind was picking up and throwing sand in their eyes and mouths and noses, so Gerald removed his vest and slung it over his head, where Gade just ate sand. The desert was rather brutal. The sun burned so hot that it made the sand appear to melt. The beams felt like a whip snapping across their bodies, the sand scraping their skin as it flew at them. And the last of their water was gone. There would be water in Gardenfell, to be sure, but that was at least an hour away, maybe more. There was no water here. It was understandable why King Joramy was sent back over the Endless Mountains after he found this burning wasteland. Having a road directly to Gardenfell from Linwood would be amazing. Not having to walk or ride across the desert would improve trade significantly. Gardenfell could send boats down the river, but getting them to go upstream was very difficult. Gade had cursed Gerald for not letting them ride horses. He realized too late that being inconspicuous was not a good idea and hadn't worked. My strategy works in battles, like chess, not in traveling. I need to win some more games to keep my mind sharp. He was good at other games like backgammon and taffle, but chess was his favorite. He hated games of luck and anything to do with dice. Skill and strategy were his realm, not luck. He would routinely dominate anyone he played in chess, and the only one to regularly beat him was his sister, though he still had the winning record. Before long, the sand began to mix with grass, and then it was a lush, soft field with flowers and farms for miles and miles. The air became moist, and even hotter. Gade was complaining again. Bloody hell. We couldn't take horses, could we? I know. Hey, Gade, did you ever think of becoming a knight? No. Why not? Gerald loved poking fun at Gade. It was extremely easy, and he never became angry. Because I don't want to join the fucking standing army, that's why. Why not? You'll get to fight more. Oh, wonderful. I know how to fight because I have to, not because it's fun. You know the stuff you have to do to keep the neighborhood ruffians off of your sister? Not really. I didn't know you had a sister. I don't. She's dead. Poor Sheila. I beat all the men away, and she got the flu. Isn't that great, huh? But what can you do? That conversation had taken a morbid turn. Someone Gerald and his brother cared for dearly had succumbed to the same flu. Well then, what about the lands? You're pretty old, right? You'll need a place to live after you can't fight anymore. I'm not that old. And what am I going to do with lands? Live on them? You'll be given lands with your title. You can settle down, marry, have little children to inherit your land. Oh, it'll be my land, will it? It won't belong to the crown? Apparently, Gade was smarter than he acted. It was true that the crown had taken lands from knights in the past, though they were traitors and deviants more often than not. Anything that isn't yours can be taken, you know. Unless you keep it by force. The gates of Gardenfell were tall archways with flowers carved into the clay, painted bright blues, yellows, pinks, oranges, and purples. The buildings were all made from sandstone, streaked tan and orange, and were square without a sloped roof, with square windows. Canalways were built into the city, so it had water constantly running through it. Over the canals were red wooden bridges, and in the distance was the castle of Gardenfell, the Rose. Gerald remembered being told that it was named such not only for its bright red and pink color, but also because of the way it rose above the city. And the city was massive, easily twice the size of Linwood, and perhaps bigger in permanent population than Warren's place, but not sheer acreage. There weren't many trees, but there were vines and ivy growing on nearly every building, and each house had flowers of different kinds planted in their front yards, and the hum of bees grew louder when they walked past a patch. The people were dark-skinned, reddish from the sun, with dark hair and eyes. Gerald thought it would make more sense for them to have light hair, because that would reflect the sun better. Black always got hot in the sun, but men and women alike had long curly black hair. They wore the most clashing and flashy colors they could. Some of them hurt to look at. One man had a long curly ponytail that was tied back by a long yellow ribbon, and he wore bright green and orange clothes. Another wore yellow and pink in a checkered pattern. A woman wore a dress of green and purple. The style was much the same, jerkins, vests, tunics, dresses, and gowns, but the way they were colored was nearly obscene, and they never buttoned. All of their clothing was open and flowing. When they entered the gate, they saw a man and woman kissing on a bench, and a woman and another woman kissing by an alleyway. Gade was staring at the women, confused. How the hell do you suppose they... Shut the f*** up, Gade. They walked down the rocky streets under the blazing sun, searching for a tavern or bar where Gerald could destroy people in chess. Some buildings had signs protruding from them to differentiate them as businesses. There was one with a steaming loaf of bread, one with a woven basket, one with a hammer and sword, one with a hammer and nails, one with a pair of shoes, and one with a tankard. That was the one they went to. Inside the dark tavern, there were many couples kissing on long benches and tables. Some were more than couples. There were 3 or 4 together. It reeked of booze, too. The f*** is going on here? Where can a man just get a f***ing drink? Gade, shut up. You'll get us kicked out. He went to the barkeep, a man with a curly mustache, wearing a black vest and white tunic, with a striped green and yellow bow tie. Hello, good sir. Are there any regulars who like games? Perhaps chess? The man had an accent of some sort. His R's were hard. He spoke from his throat. When he said it sounded like eat, and he spoke with a slight lisp. Oh. You want the game house. It is right down the street. They have what you are looking for. They have game houses here? If I ever go back to Linwood, I'm having some built. The game house was a colorful room with a green and yellow checkered floor, and there were at least 24 tables where people were playing games. A young man with a thin mustache, wearing blue and green, beckoned Gerald over. Come, traveler. Play with me. Apparently that barkeeper wasn't the only one with that accent. Gerald strutted to the table. How did you know I was a traveler? He took a seat, and Gade stood. You are barely wearing any clothes. You are fair-skinned, and you are as red as salmon meat. The sun is not kind to you. He had Gerald pinned. You got me. We're travelers from the south, from the Middle Kingdom. Oh, is that so? My brother has gone there recently. Would you be so kind as to tell me your name? In the Middle Kingdom, we tell others we want to know their name by giving ours first. Here we do things differently. What do you think? We play chess. Loser must tell their name first. Fun, yes? That is why you came to the game house, yes? The chess match had lasted 5 minutes. Gerald had taken every single one of his opponent's pieces, save the king. His opponent smiled. Yes. I must admit when I am beaten. He stood from his seat and bowed. I am Inigo Guevara, 3rd Prince of Gardenfell, representative of the 12th Estate in the Senate. Now, traveler, may I ask your name? Gerald stood and bowed. I am Prince Gerald, 2nd Prince of the Middle Kingdom. He didn't usually introduce himself that way, but hearing Prince Inigo's introduction had made him want to emulate it. Prince Gerald. Wow. Who would have thought we would meet in a place like this? I expected to meet you at the Rose. I hope you did not take offense to my statements earlier. No, they were all true. My skin is not used to the sun, and it does burn quite badly. Come to my gardens. I have a plant that can help, unless you wish to arrive later, if you understand my meaning. We have the best brothels in the world here. I will not tell my father that you are here yet. Gade perked up at that, but Gerald said, No, we won't be needing any of that. But perhaps another game? This time for a beer? And now the real game starts. Welcome to the Storytime Saturday podcast. I am your host, TGD. Now, Gerald has gone on quite an adventure through the Middle Kingdom, and he's finally gone over the Endless Mountains and is in Gardenfell. He finally arrives in Gardenfell. So let's start with the writing aspect of this chapter. There's this weird line as Gerald is explaining the different holds in their banners. He says, Balcaster was where men settled and set camp in the middle of the seven holds. Kind of like a nothing statement. Doesn't really tell us a whole lot. But I think Balcaster literally means camp settlement. So it's literally what it means. So let's talk about, actually one more thing. There's kind of a strange break here. He's talking to Gade, and then it like abruptly switches to talking about Gerald back in the Endless Mountains after Ben Blacksheep left them. So it's a strange break there, and then it goes right back to the present where they're climbing over the Endless Mountains, and they're back in the desert. So that's kind of weird. I don't know how I feel about that. Let's talk about the characters. Let's talk about Gerald a little bit. We see that he is very learned and savvy on the ways of the world, history and culture, as he's there talking about the different heraldry of the seven holds. And we also get a glimpse into his other side, a side that we've gotten little hints of here and there, where Gade freaks out at how violent he can get. So there was one of the bandits that was still alive, and Gerald took his sword out and killed him. And Gade was like, ha, nice. And then, as he's watching what Gerald's doing, he's like, okay. Oh, stop, he's already dead. So he freaked Gade out a little bit. And we see that he's actually, like, this is a bit of a hint that he's kind of a psycho. And we also see that he's addicted to beating people at chess. He's, like, obsessed with it. It's interesting how once he meets the Prince of Gardenfell after he beats him in chess, he goes, now the real game begins. So he's up to something. And, you know, I don't know what that something is, honestly. I forget if it even was anything. So let's talk about Gade for a sec. We learn a little bit about Gade, why he doesn't want to become a knight, because it would give him too many responsibilities, and he doesn't actually enjoy fighting. He fights because he has to. And we learned that he knows how to fight as well as he does because he had to beat away the neighborhood boys off of his sister. And we also get the feeling that he's wary of the crown, which is weird since he works for Gerald, because he says, oh, the land will be mine, it won't belong to the crown. So we're introduced to this other character, one more, Prince Inigo. Going forward, he's basically going to be our guide in this strange land of Gardenfell. And he's really like a stereotypical Gardenfeller. Like he epitomizes what Gardenfell people are like. The typical Gardenfeller. We also learn that he's a senator, and as well as a prince. And to tell you the truth, this guy is just like a mixture of Inigo Montoya and Oberyn Martell from Game of Thrones. Now, we have a lot of notes to go over. This chapter introduces a lot of stuff. Now, this introductory scene is really just a ripoff of that scene from Game of Thrones where they're watching the banners come in. I don't remember who was there. Was it like Podrick and Tyrion? And Podrick's like, oh, that's the three lemons of this certain house. And so that's basically what's happening here. It's just a fun way to explore the different banners and heraldry of the different houses. I guess it's different enough. Gerald just happens to be talking about the seven holds for like no reason. He's teaching Gade culture for no reason. And Gade like has questions about the banners. That's kind of funny that in Larksvale, their banner is a raven and not a lark. And the ruling family there is the Puritans. And the Robin is a name of a bird. And their banner is a sheep. For all the sense that makes. Now, Balcaster, that banner being 3 lines, their sigil being 3 lines, might be a reference to cocaine. Honestly, I think that's what it's intended to be, the 3 lines. Maybe, maybe. Now, of course, Gardenfell is a play on Vardenfell from Morrowind, and as you may have guessed, you might have gotten an indication. You might have figured it out that Gardenfell is actually on the equator of this planet, which means that the Middle Kingdom is in the southern hemisphere, and the Land of Ice and Fire is on the South Pole. Which is not something we really get in our world. The southern hemisphere of our world, there's not much there. There's like Australia and South America, and a little bit of Africa, but then it's just like sea and ocean. Most of our world is in the northern hemisphere. So we don't really. I think that was kind of a cool switcheroo. You know, you don't think of the north as being a place that's hot, but for some places in the world it is. Like if in South America, Cape Horn is cold, and freaking like Argentina is hot, like Mexico is hot. So I don't really know of anyone that does that. That might be something that exists where the story takes place in the southern hemisphere. Because normally I think that was like an interesting subversion, because we always think of the north as being cold and the south as being hot. Now, a note about Badgerfell. It's basically like confirmed. You should be able to put it together that they're dwarves. Gerald says they have all sorts of beautiful stone in the mountains of theirs, as well as iron. So, and we've seen Sock, who is as wide as he is tall. So Sock is probably about 5'5". So in this world, yeah, the people in Badgerfell are dwarves. Sock is a dwarf, but he's about 5'5". So dwarves in this world are just a little bit shorter than the average human. I mean, they're still humans. It's just this world's dwarves, which is the stocky, mountain-dwelling, brutish clans. Now, Gerald mentions Taffel, that he's good at games like backgammon and Taffel. Taffel is this like Nordic chess game that I don't really know anything about. I looked up a picture of it, and it's like there are pieces that are in the middle that one player has, and then the other player has pieces on the outside. So it's like you're surrounded on all sides, and you have to fight. I'm not sure how Taffel works, honestly. I'd have to read the rules, but that's something that Gerald likes playing, is Taffel. Now, we do put Georgine over a little bit. Gerald says that the only one who could regularly beat him was his sister, though he still had the winning record. So we see that Georgine is pretty good at chess, so we put her over a little bit. She's like the second best at chess. Now, Gerald mentions someone Gerald and his brother cared for dearly had succumbed to the same flu that Gade's sister died from. And honestly, I have no clue what this is about. I think it might be Jeffrey's betrothed? I think I might remember that. If it's not their mother, because if it was their mother, their father and sister would be included in the people that cared. So honestly, I don't really know. I don't really know what this is about, but I think, if I can recall, it's Jeffrey's betrothed. I don't know what Gerald's relationship to her is. So you might get the indication now. I told you before that Gardenfell is an amalgamation of Spain and France and Italy, and like Argentina, like South America too. So there's aspects of the romance place where the romance languages come from, and South America. So there's like these canals like in Venice, and these brightly colored houses like in South America. And we see that as soon as Gerald and Gade walk in, we see the people are very libertine. They're very sexually loose. So this is basically just Dorne. This is Dorne in the north from Game of Thrones. Gardenfell is literally just Dorne. So I described the accent, and I tried doing it. I just tried doing it and it was kind of weird. I don't know what exactly I was going for. His R's were hard. He spoke from his throat, and when he said it sounded like eat with a slight lisp. Dude, how do you do that accent? I just tried, and I epically, epically failed. So next week, we're going to go back to Warren's place with Sir Jacob and check out how the tournament is going. Because I think the tournament arc, this might be the last chapter in the tournament arc. Yeah, maybe. I think this might be the last chapter in the tournament arc. So come back next week for that. We'll see what happens there. I don't really have much more to say about this chapter. A lot of stuff introduced, and we learn more about Gardenfell and how all that works later on. So come back next week. So this has been the Storytime Saturday podcast. Thank you for joining. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, make sure you're subscribed. If you're listening anywhere else, make sure you like or follow or whatever it may be there. And also subscribe on YouTube at _Chalice channel. It's always great having people watching, so thanks. And I'll catch you next time.